One of the questions on Reddit is, I've gone through cancer treatment and I'm considered done. What now? I was done with chemotherapy because my tumor had a clinically complete response. So that was done April 12th. But I had surgery on May 4th, and that was done on May 4th. Even though I was done with chemo and I was done with surgery, I wasn't done with immunotherapy until January, a year after I had been diagnosed. So was I really done? People ring bells, or we have parties, or we celebrate, but the patient often isn't actually done. Whether it's 5 years on estrogen suppressors like tamoxifen, that's 5 years of really messed up hormone things, so much so that most women can't do 5 years of it. The steroids mean you gain weight, and that weight doesn't come off, particularly if you're having this hormone interference to prevent cancer recurrence. Every time you feel a lump or an ache or something just doesn't feel right, the first thought is the cancer back? Your life doesn't ever go back to before you had cancer. And the question is really, how do you want to be in the new life that you have? Because you have it. Enjoying today's episode? Click subscribe. You'll get the stories, science, and strategies to help you and everyone you care about kick cancer's ass. By the time you're hearing this episode, it will have been around 3 years since I received the news everybody who faces cancer would love to hear, which is, congratulations, Joelle, your PCR, pathologically complete response, which means in the surgical pathology of all the tissue in my body that they removed, there is no sign of cancer. And that's great news, right? You're done. And I am thrilled. I was so relieved to hear it, but I wasn't done. I had a year of immunotherapy, so I still had 9 months of that to go. I had revision surgeries to adjust things as my body adjusted to the fabulously crafted but new breasts that my reconstructive surgeon created out of my belly fat. And I had a lifetime of vigilance. I'd already been in vigilance because I had such high risk, but now it was more. Now, if they saw something, which they found in surgery on my abdomen, that meant more screening. They saw something with my kidneys. Now I have a urologist. Found something with how my heart has been impacted by the preventative surgery I had in my 30s. Now I have a cardiologist. All of these are reminders that I'm not done, but I did achieve PCR. So I want to talk about now what. And that's what this episode, which is just me, is going to share with all of you. Thanks for being here. I'm Joelle Kaufman, and this is Kicking Cancer's Ass. When you get diagnosed with cancer, it pretty much disrupts and takes over your whole life. It's unwelcome. Nobody wants it. And it's a drag. I delayed long enough that instead of having preventative surgery, I had cancer and I had to have chemo, and then I'd have surgery and hopefully not radiation. And that's just a drag. I don't want to spend 4, 6, 12 months constantly in a drag. And there's no really avoiding that a bunch of it's going to feel bad. So I thought I'd create some milestones that I could look forward to. My sister had this idea that I should have a bye-bye boobies party before my preventative mastectomy. So it was scheduled for January 9th, and my surgery was on the 10th. And I thought it was a fun idea, a little irreverent, kind of giving cancer the finger. Of course, I was diagnosed on January 9th, so we had to cancel that party. But when I was going through chemo and it looked like my tumor was responding, we kind of revisited with my sister and my best friend. Maybe we should do the Bye Bye Boobies party before the surgery that was now rescheduled to, turned out to be May 4th. It was really something to look forward to. Not having major surgery, but that was now unavoidable. But it was an opportunity for my friends to get together, to laugh, to smile, to share a great meal, to just have a evening of happiness before I had surgery and looked at, I don't know what I'd feel like afterwards. Would I be in pain? Would I be fatigued? I mean, I figured I would be. I had I'm at bilateral mastectomy and a deep flap reconstruction. So I was looking at 14 hours, 10 to 14 hours of surgery, 2 days in the ICU, and then, 3 months of recovery. I wanted to have some fun beforehand. So that's how the Bye Bye Boobies party was born. And there was no obligation to come. We invited people from different parts of my life, and we did not ask people to talk about what they liked so much about my breasts. That seemed uncomfortable. But, we had fun and we were kind of celebrating the female form and celebrating that we were alive and that we could be together was something fun to think about when I sat in the ICU with machines beeping or when I had to walk with a walker because I was hunched over. I think it's a way I tricked my mind, kept myself from dwelling too long in the areas of recrimination. I really wasn't self pitying because I had the gene. My mom and my sister had the disease. Lots of other people had the disease that I loved and I knew, and most of them survived, but some didn't. And that was awful. And I didn't want to dwell there too long on my guilt for having delayed the surgery and then forcing my family and friends to endure chemo and all of its interruptions with me. What I did before, kind of when we knew the chemo was working, so it must have been around early April, we looked at each other, my husband and I, and said, well, this has not been the winter or spring we expected or wanted. What could we do that might be fun? And I thought our son was going to play summer collegiate baseball. So he's already playing in college, and they had these summer leagues, and they play a lot. And they play in smaller towns, and he was going to play in upstate New York. And I thought it might be fun to spend a couple weeks being fans. And I thought it would be fun to go to New York and be able to go to a theater, to a show. I thought that would be fun. And friends of ours invited us to visit them in Corsica, where we'd never been, and we thought it might be fun to do some lightweight bicycling in France if we're going to Corsica, and maybe spend a day or two in Nice, and then come back and visit our son who was interning at that time in Austin. And so I know this is a privileged, "Oh my god, you took 6 weeks and you bounced around parts of the world," and it is. And I'm really lucky that we were able to afford what we did. Now, we did a lot of Airbnb, and we didn't do a fancy bike tour, we did a do-it-yourselfer. We spent a night on a boat in Nice, and there was no air conditioning, and it was a small sailboat that we Airbnb'd as an experience. But it was an experience where we didn't sleep. But planning this trip, which I named the Fuck Cancer World Tour, it didn't matter that it wasn't luxury. It just mattered that we were going to do stuff. One of the questions on Reddit is, I've gone through cancer treatment and I'm considered done. What now? And a lot of people who haven't been through cancer or breast cancer don't necessarily know, like, done might not be done. For example, I was done with chemotherapy because my tumor had a clinically complete response. So that was done April 12th. But I had surgery on May 4th, and that was done on May 4th, except I had 3 months of recovery and then what are called revision surgeries. So was I done? And I was really lucky. I was eligible for and had immunotherapy, and that was 12 months. So even though I was done with chemo and I was done with surgery, I wasn't done with immunotherapy until January a year after I had been diagnosed. So was I really done? I mean, I was done with cancer that could kill me. And I think that's an important moment, and people ring bells, or we have parties, or we celebrate, but the patient often isn't actually done. And the impact of cancer on our lives never ends. Whether it's 5 years of really messed up hormone things, so much so that most women can't do 5 years of it. And there's weight gain. There's weight gain during chemo because they give you steroids. The steroids mean you gain weight, and that weight doesn't come off. A lot of us spend time with the thoughts in our head of, is it back? Every time you feel a lump or an ache or something just doesn't feel right, the first thought is the cancer back? So my advice is you can be happy. You don't have to be happy you got cancer. That would be weird. But you can be fully engaged and happy, or you can say, look, I just want to go back to where I was before with these little interruptions. There's no rules. I choose to continue spreading happiness tripwires on my path and trying to put them on someone else's, like yours. And that doesn't mean I don't get annoyed or mad. Of course, I didn't become a saint because I had cancer. I'm still a human and I'm still full of flaws. And no, I don't have gratitude all the time. Sometimes I'm really annoyed that there's a car in front of me that's driving slow and I left too late and I'm going to be late for my appointment and it's my fault, but the car in front of me is going too slow. Of course I do that. And I curse and have to get some scanning. They found an incidental finding when they did my mastectomies that I had what's called lipomas deep in my abdomen. Now, they're fat deposits. Who cares? Except they could turn to being something cancerous, and that's no good. And so I am the winner of an annual CT scan of my abdomen, which is a reminder that they're looking for cancer. I've recast it. So I said, look, the thing that really scares me about cancer is undetectable cancers. Abdominal cancers are really hard to detect. So because I'm the winner of a annual abdominal CT scan, I'm actually getting scans every year where if something were to bubble up, they're going to find it early. If it comes back, that's an awful thing. Nobody wants it. And you are tough. You have a team in place that you didn't have before. But until you get that piece of news, why give cancer any more space in your life than it's already taken? So plan something fun. Go visit a national park. Take a road trip with somebody. Write a story that you've always wanted to write. Call friends that you haven't talked to in months or years just to say hi. Decide if you want to learn a new craft or hobby, and it doesn't matter that you suck at it. I always wanted to try glass blowing. I don't think I'm particularly good at it, but I'm psyched to try it. And of course I'm not good at it because I've never done it. And I didn't expect to be a savant. So I might actually have to practice and fail a lot. But why not? I can make the time. If you made the time for cancer treatment, which you had to, you can make the time for something that makes you smile and makes you feel good. Yes, you have to work or you have to care for your family. Yes, you should exercise. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. Happiness tripwires can be 5 seconds. You know, put out a hummingbird feeder and just put it somewhere that you can see when you're in the kitchen or when you're in your home office or when you're doing whatever it is you like to do so that you can see the magic of a hummingbird. All right, so let's talk about pre-wiring responses to the well-meaning things people say that don't help. So, yay, you're done with treatment. That's so awesome. Meanwhile, you have appointments every 3 months with different doctors who are checking different things, and you're continuing to have either immunotherapy or you're taking some sort of a hormone suppressant. Like, you're not done. But you did eliminate, if you're celebrating that, the tumor, or you did reach no evidence of disease, and that's worth celebrating. So when people say, yay, you're done, just teach yourself to hear, yay, I got to NED, I got to PCR, I got to cancer's not overtaking my life anymore. Okay, another thing on Reddit is people say I go to stupid lengths to avoid talking about my cancer. First off, fine. Like, there is no obligation to ever talk about your cancer except with your medical team. If you want to put it in the rearview mirror and move forward, by all means, you go. It's awesome. You're not obligated to talk to other people. Even if they're like, I know you've been through this and will you help me? You can say, I don't want to. It's not good for me. It takes me to a dark place. And if that's the case, go ahead. I think you can be explicit. I don't want to talk about cancer. Put it out there. I just don't want to. And if people are like, yeah, but you've been there. Yeah, here's a list of support groups and resources of people who do want to talk about cancer and can help you. I'm not. You are allowed. You are encouraged to put your needs first. Put on your own oxygen mask, right? You don't want to talk about it? Don't talk about it. And you don't have to go to extreme lengths. Just say no. I'm on the other side. I like talking about it. I like talking about it because my stories don't have unhappy endings. And I think there's a lot of power in hope. And it doesn't take me to a dark place. I've lived with the specter of cancer my entire adult life. So it hasn't interfered with me living the life I want to live. But that's my choice. And I tell people that. So don't go to extreme lengths. Just be explicit. This isn't something I want to talk about. Let's talk about something else. And that's okay. Another person on Reddit wrote, like, I have 5 different cancers now. And I don't know how much longer I've got. What's next? First off, I'm sorry. And that's just a bad hand that you were dealt. And I hope you have treatment not just for the cancer, but for your mind and for your any symptoms or side effects so that you're as comfortable as possible. And what I what I've done when it's been my family members who've reached that point. My grandmother, and she was young. She was only 69, which, given that I'm 55, seems really young right now. She had cancer that had metastasized. And, she and my grandfather were approaching their 50th wedding anniversary. And she wanted to celebrate it like they had planned, like they'd gone to friends' celebrations. And so the whole family came down to Florida, and she put on a party dress, and she was maybe 85 pounds. And my grandparents used to love to dance. And, she was pretty beaten up by all of the treatment. Um, and I think at that point she had decided I couldn't do any more treatment. And the doctors had said it wasn't helping. But we all came together, and this was before the show Rent came out, but it felt like seasons of love. It felt like we were all there to share with her our love for her, but also how much love had been throughout her life. And some of their oldest friends, some of their new friends. It wasn't a big party. And there was a moment, I think, where my grandfather and my grandmother danced a little bit with my grandfather supporting her. Um, And, he was sad. He couldn't help it because we knew the end was near. But my grandmother was beaming. My grandmother felt so happy, so loved. She'd made it to the 50th. She had made it to see her grandchildren as adults. And she wanted more, but she was so happy in that moment. And that is a memory I get to keep. So when I think of her in that last month, because the party was in, I guess, late October, and she died in mid-November. Um, I remember she sat us all down. She gave us things she wanted us to have, and she wanted to give them. And she looked at me, and she'd always wanted me to play tennis. My sister plays tennis. My mother plays tennis. I know how to play tennis. It just wasn't something that I spent a lot of time on. And she gave me her tennis racket. And I said, "Well, Grandma, you're going to need this." And she looked at me and she said, "Jojo, if I am able to play tennis again, your grandfather's going to buy me a new racket." My grandmother died in 1991. It's 2026. I'm still bringing that tennis racket with me wherever I live. And I certainly am not playing tennis with it. But it meant a lot to her that I have it. And it meant a lot to me to have it. Because the connections that we form with the people we love, they endure. So if you're sorry, see, it still gets me upset. If you are nearing the end, I've not been there. So I can't tell you how I feel.
I can only tell you how I watched other people do it, and they didn't want to leave anything unsaid, and they wanted to be expressive of their love and receiving of love. And I think it's okay to say, I wish this wasn't happening. My grandmother also wished it wasn't happening. And we can only wish that so much, and then we want to spend our time sharing memories and dreams and making the most of whatever time we have. And what I'd say to everybody else is, why do we have to wait until we're at our final days to do that? Like, let's do that wherever and whenever we can. I mean, that's kind of the concept of happiness tripwires, although they're much smaller. But it's like, say it. Say I love you. Say I missed you. Say I want to see you. Say, let's take a walk. Say I'm glad you're here. Just say it. Take the moments. They make everybody feel better, more connected. They're healthier. And when we reach the point where we're running out of time, say it. So the reason I set milestones like, I'm going to celebrate the midpoint of cancer. I'm going to celebrate that I could get on a plane after 4 cycles of chemo and safely go watch my son's debut. And he was terrible in his debut, but it was so great to be there for his start of his collegiate baseball career, which got a lot better. But anyway, I celebrated that. I celebrated that I could see my parents then and that they could see me. I celebrated when I hit 2/3 done. I celebrated when I finished chemo and I got to a clinical complete response. I celebrated with the Bye Bye Boobies. I celebrated with the Fuck Cancer World Tour. I celebrated when I finished immunotherapy. Why? Because why not? And each of those celebrations just took something that was kind of awful and said, I can, you know, make this a little lighter. Doesn't change what happened. It just changes what I feel, which I'm okay with. And to my colleagues and friends and in this cancer journey, if what you need to do is feel angry and bad, I mean, go to a rage room. I mean, feel it, do it. Do whatever makes it easier for you to get through this. And, sometimes you feel like you get punched in the face. I mean, being diagnosed the day before I was supposed to have preventative surgery was a punch in the face. Now I have to do a different set of treatments, and I'll need them for the rest of my life, but I'm going to get as much time as I possibly can. And social connection, finding something to hang on to, whether it's a mantra or a routine, something that makes you feel better, that is healthier. It is also healthy to feel all the anger or sadness or fear and express it, even if you're just expressing it to a piece of paper. It's good to get it out. I don't like staying there very long, so I find a new way to trick my mind to, oh, but I get to see this friend because they're driving me to a chemotherapy appointment and I haven't seen them in a while. And wow, I'm going to have a wonderful catch up. And I did. I still was going to infusion, but I got that 20 minutes. And for that 20 minutes, I was pretty psyched. So I wish that to you. Look for the little moments that can make it a little bit easier. Just hey, I saw this joke. I thought you might enjoy it. So if you're wondering what next, fill your life with seasons of love, string happiness tripwires along your own path and along the path of the people around you. And when there is no more hope, there is still love.
If you want to go deeper on the Serena-6 data, questions to bring to your oncologist, what's coming and evolving in the science, then become a subscriber to our newsletter at kcapodcast.com. Paid subscribers keep this show running, and they shape what we cover next. If this work is useful to you, please consider becoming one. We never choose the pitch, but we always choose the swing. I'm Joelle Kaufman. Until next week, keep kicking cancer's ass.